Hi guys, today I'm making this video in response to the YouTuber Mighty Emperor's theory on Sonic Frontiers and about how I thought coincided a little bit about the story of the game. But for information, I'm not saying he saw my video, but I did notice we talked about a few things that were similar regarding the story events of the game. And I did not see many other YouTubers talk about theories like this regarding the Phantom Ruby's involvement in the game, besides YouTuber Captain Yeet, which again, a huge shout out to him for helping me put a little bit more into my past videos if you haven't seen those already. So this video was going to be kind of a counter theory to what the Mighty Emperor said in his video, but at the same time, it's not really going to be a counter theory because I do agree with some of what he said about the Starfall Islands being this sort of simulation that Infinite created to an extent, because it does line up with what we got in the story so far. So in his video, he believes that Infinite was sent back to the Starfall Islands after his defeat, and Infinite realizes that he lost because Sonic has friends and allies to help him defeat him. So, not only does he cause Sonic to split away from his friends, but he also causes him to lose his memory of his friends, so it's easier for him to be defeated. Now this alone is a pretty interesting idea because this does show that Infinite learned from his defeat at the end of Sonic Forces and created this perfect counterplan to Sonic that not even Eggman had made despite knowing him the longest. But that's just the start of his theory. What comes next is even crazier, and is that the whole of the Starfall Islands is this giant illusion made by Infinite made to trap Sonic and his friends. And this card does seem to line up with what we hear in the game so far. First off, we know that Sonic and his friends are in the search of the Chaos Emeralds and they ended up getting sucked into a portal to the Starfall Islands. So this does partially set up the fact that the island could be an illusion that Sonic is trapped in, but the portal could have simply just moved him through space. But on the other hand, I have no problem believing that the Phantom Ruby can generate so much power, since at the end of Sonic Forces, Infinite created a literal sun that was going to kill everyone. So he has the power to do it if he wanted to, but that's just the start of some reasons why this theory starts to shake. For starters, we know that Eggman made it to the Starfall Islands in order to try and hack this old technology that they found on it, so this implies that everything was here before Eggman got there. We can also assume that Infinite got here first, but I do not think the Phantom Ruby can create robots like that. I mean, Infinite is strong, but he's not as smart as Eggman to the point where he can create these advanced looking robots. Another piece of evidence that the Mighty Emperor brings to the table is that when we complete tasks in the game, items just appear out of nowhere, but they appear in this digital holographic form. Now, I can't deny what I see, but this just could be how things just appear in the game, and not because of Infinite's influence, mainly because of one thing: there is no red hue to signify that he is in control of this. Because we know whenever Infinite takes control of something or creates anything, it always comes with this red glitchy hue that surrounds everything. But again, there could just be a simple reason why it works like that. It's just the reason I do not think it deals with Infinite. But again, I could be wrong. Now for the next part of his theory. And I kinda have a tough time believing it, only because it makes so much sense, but it doesn't at the same time, but it still does. So his theory is that Infinite is in the form of Sage, a sort of projection trying to tell Sonic to leave the island, but is actually studying him, trying to find a way to defeat him. And he supports this by saying how Infinite hates his self-image after being defeated by Sonic, and so he wants to be seen in a different form for himself and for what he was not able to do. Plus, the guy always wears a mask, so we don't see his face in Forces for that reason. And if you play through episodes of Shadow and Sonic Forces, it does make sense why Infinite would do this. I mean, the whole reason he wears a mask is because Shadow killed his squad. We don't know much about him. For all we know, that could have been the closest thing that he had to a family, so it would make sense how it would be feel ashamed of himself for not being able to avenge them. Now, if you take into account everything I just said in the past minute, it sounds crazy, and believe me, it is. But if you look at Infinite and Sage side by side, they show many similar design traits, based off their color schemes alone being very gray, white, and red. Again, this is compelling, but I just do not think Infinite would do this. I think Eggman would, but not really Infinite, although I do think he will have some sort of involvement in the game. Also, it may seem like I don't like this person's theory, but that's not true. In fact, when I watched this video, I had actually a hard time believing how it all fit together. It's just that I just noticed some holes in this theory, and that's all. I recommend you watch this video. He ties it all together so well, it's crazy. So, with the compelling evidence that the mighty emperor brought to the table, I would like to make an adjustment to my theory to incorporate his great ideas, starting with the role of Sage in Sonic Frontiers. Although I do agree that there is more than likely a connection, I think it's in the reverse of what he said. So instead of Infinite controlling Sage like this sort of puppet or mask, I think that Sage is controlling Infinite, or at least more than likely holding him back. So, based off the ending of Sonic Forces, it is safe to assume that the Ruby has some sort of mind of its own, or at least its own will. And what I mean by that is that what if Sage is telling Sonic to leave the island because she is trying to hold back Infinite because either he has gained so much power he's out of control, or the Ruby itself is controlling him. And you may be wondering where I'm getting this from. Well, in the events of Sonic Mania, which is a series that directly eclipsed this game, the Phantom Ruby is acting on its own, and that is the result of the creation of the hard-boiled heavies, which are the bosses that you fight throughout the game. And maybe what happened to the hard-boiled heavies in the events of Sonic Mania could explain what is happening to Infinite in the events of Sonic Frontiers, at least to some extent. Maybe the Ruby is giving him some surge of power and that he can't control, or maybe the Ruby itself is controlling Infinite, and now Sage has to hold him back. Again, this is just all speculation, albeit very strong and compelling speculation. But those are my thoughts, and I would like to hear yours, especially from the Mighty Emperor, now that I made a quite interesting addition to his theories and added some thoughts. If you like this video, like, comment, subscribe, especially comment. I do want to hear what some people's ideas are about the story of this game so far, especially since more theories are being made.